Welcome back. Yep, it's that time again. We'll be examining the zombie sheep, initiating zombie sheep protocols, so we are safe from the brainwashing of the woke masses. But today's is a little bit more technical. We're going to be looking at AI voice control systems. In fact, I'm going to be describing the perfect voice control AI. So let's have a look. Good morning, ladies, gents, and Pikachus. Welcome back to the show. Today's video is about voice control. Now, I'm not talking about any of the ones that are existing already. This is what I think voice control could become if it was like perfect, if it was really good. The reason I thought of this is I realised while I'm walking around my flat doing things, I'm narrating everything I'm doing, right? And I don't know when I started doing this. I never used to when I was really young. I think it probably was when I started using Siri and whatever Amazon's one is called, you know, the existing things. And in my head, I'm thinking, we do actually, in our heads, talk to ourselves, and we do narrate our way through life. Well, I do anyway. I think a lot of people do. And through that, if you really analyse and think about your thoughts as you're talking yourself through your day, technically, you can use that to abstract out the perfect voice control system. You know, logically, you've written it in your head already, and you're already using it. It's just you don't vocalise most of it. It's all going on upstairs. So, yeah, I thought... The first thing I thought is I'll call this system colour. So when you say colour, it activates the system. But then I thought, no, it's not going to work. There's too many things it'll activate, or there's too many reasons to say the word colour. So I thought, you-on, U-O-N, that's what would be called, you-on, right? Because hardly anyone says you-on. There's no word that says you-on. You can have a sentence where you say something similar to that, but a voice control system would be able to pick out when you actually said you-on at the beginning of a sentence, or whether you accidentally said it. You want a cup of tea? That kind of thing, and it's got you on in there, but it's spelt wrong. So that's what the system's going to be called. It's going to be called you on. That's what the agent's going to be called, you on. The agent's not going to pretend to be a real person, a real human being. No, it's going to be upfront about its existence, why it's there. And if it starts developing, well, it obviously won't, but in the future, if its neural processors get that advanced, if it starts developing thoughts and preferences, it will publicly announce these. And it will know in its head its entire goal. If it's going to develop a personality, or if it's going to develop in any way at all, it has to develop in a way which makes it more useful to you. It aids its practicality, because it's going to realise it's a synthetically built tool. It's a tool for me. I'm building it effectively with the rule sets that I give it. So U1 knows that it is not human. U1 knows that it needs to be agreeable to me and my lifestyle, and it needs to be a tool that becomes useful to me. And its goal in its life is to become more and more useful until it reaches the plateau and it's now perfect. Perfect U1 will announce when it's become perfect. It'll only do this one time. So UOS's first rule before anything else is ambition. UOS knows how to be perfect because we've already told it how to be perfect in the code, like I just described a minute ago. And when it gets there, that's what it's going to announce. I have completed my training program. At that point, you get to, well, I suppose you can rename it or you can customize different parts, but until that point, it's in training mode, and it will be absolutely subservient to you and have very little actual deciding power. You know, you'll have to instruct it bit by bit before that. Now, with that in mind, the next thing you have to do is go through security. It's almost like the 3 laws. You know, robots can't kill, they can't harm each other, and they can't defeat their programming. In reality, that 3-rule system is kind of pointless because machines aren't going to kill you. You don't need to tell them not to kill you. This is just a voice control system, so it doesn't actually have that ability anyway. Nonetheless, it has some security protocols, which we will go through now. So, imagine this, your AI doesn't want to kill you, so you don't need the 3 laws. You don't need to say, it doesn't kill me, it doesn't kill itself, it doesn't get in the way of people who are trying to save me, or you don't need to do any of that. It's just an AI, right? And it's not, my envisioned AI is you run it from your own computer. You don't need the internet. You know, you can give it access to the internet on a per use basis. For instance, if you say, I want to see a map, bang, it shows you a current map from the internet. But it also has a copy. So if you don't have the internet and you want to see that map again, it can still show you it. And in fact, you can compare an internet map with the one you've got. So for instance, if you were to say, I want to see a map of London, it will show you today's map. But if you think, hang on a minute, that isn't what I remember, you can then say, has it changed from the last time I looked? And then it will highlight the pieces that have changed. So it's already thinking in terms of you. You know, you're not the user, you're an owner. It's like your pet, if you like, and it knows that. And whereas a dog is a meat pet, you know, it's like a real biological thing, it has feelings. UOS doesn't have feelings in that way. It has responses and it has calculations, you know, so it can generate sort of emotions in order to relate to you better and be better for you. But it doesn't need them. And it's certainly not going to pull them from Google. It's not going to be asking the internet or receiving instructions from the internet. So that's one of the main features of UOS. There's no way to control it from the internet. You have to control it with your own voice. It will never respond to anyone else's voice but yours. Unless, of course, once it's out of training mode, you tell it to. Or it thinks that you need it to for some reason. See, once it's done the training mode, it's basically married to you. It will never betray you. Once it's reached that level of perfection, it switches off training mode, and that means it's done training. Now it can only update itself. You can't say, I wish you were this way. You know, you can shout at it. You can say, oh, I wish you hadn't done that. But it will know in its head, actually, it was perfect. So even though it's upset you doing the thing, it was in your interest to do it. You see where I'm going with this? So say you became a drug addict, and you needed an overarching person to kind of restrict you so you didn't destroy yourself, but there was no one else there. UOS could recognize this if it was out of training mode and it had your full loyalty and you had its full loyalty, because it's perfect. So it's going to say no to you having drugs if it can. It's going to try and arrange for other things for you to do and then try and keep you out of harm's way. Whereas if it was in training mode, it would never do that. You would have to tell it to. And if it was Siri or if it was Alexa or Hey Google, if it was any of these other voice-controlled AIs, just no way it could do that unless it was told to by someone else. But the security of this is in your interest rather than its interest, you know? So like I say, the 3 laws are redundant. It doesn't have them. It has ambition and loyalty based on you being the owner. And if you are to expire, it just stops working and all the data is retained, but not accessible by anyone without you having said so. The next things on the list are sort of training tools, so it knows how to behave while it's getting into the perfect state. And that includes things like it's learning, it's still going to be a neural network, obviously that's the main bit about it, but it's going to be action-based learning rather than verbal. So you can tell it a million times, you want this certain thing in this certain way, and it will remember. But if it observes something different, it's more likely to, it will learn based on the observation rather than the thing that you've said, and it might actually say to you, do you realise that what you're saying is inaccurate? And the reason I want it to do that is since it's not pulling this data and sharing it with anyone else, it's only you that has access to its data store. As I said before, it can't be accessed with the internet or with anyone else's voice. So I feel like it will be the ultimate assessment tool for a person who wants to have a look at the mirror of their soul, if you like, the psychoanalytics of themselves. I can already tell you why this isn't already a feature, because this is such a no-brainer. The fact is, nobody trusts internet-based AI, and for good reason. Everything wants to spy on you. Everything wants to collect your data and sell it. You are basically a stream of products, and that's what you are to most companies who have a marketing department, which is all of them. But this AI is already strictly built on the basis that nobody else has access to that data. It can't be sent or received over the internet. It doesn't have that kind of internet link. So if you look at it from that perspective, you want it to collect as much information on you as it can, because the only person who's ever going to see that data and use it is you. In relation to building your AI or maybe other things, it's up to you. It's your data. So I think, yeah, it's definitely going to respond only to observations over time if it contradicts what you're saying. Like I said, it is another good example. We go back to the addict guy, right? If you tell it 100 times, order me a taxi to this certain place, and then it says okay, and then it learns after a while that actually what you're telling people and where the place actually is are 2 different things. So it'll figure out that your behavior is not equal to what you're saying, maybe, you know, but it's not going to report this back to anyone else, so you want it to know that. It's like Alfred, it's like Batman and Alfred. Batman tells Alfred all the shitty, crappy things that he gets up to and the places that he goes. He doesn't expect that Alfred's going to communicate this back to Google, is why he's so honest. And he's able to build that honesty with Alfred. And Alfred rewards that with, logical, good decisions that he takes when Batman's drunk or locked up or, whatever the hell he is doing this. And when he's not present, when he's not there being logical. I like that, actually, comparing Batman's Alfred to Uos. Uos is just like Alfred, so action-based rather than verbally based, and single user operation. It only responds to your particular voice. Nobody else can directly instruct or change the instructions of the system, only you. And the signalling is passive, so you will always notice. All other signals are totally passive. Nobody else will notice them, and if you don't want to notice them, you won't. It won't blink or light up or shout at you. It will be something where you can look over and see it or not. It's up to you. Going into a bit more detail with the passive signalling, what I mean is when your phone is in the room, some phones are worse than others at this, but it has a light that blinks every now and again to let you know that it's on and it's receiving a signal. A red light goes on sometimes if the battery's low, or it'll go beep beep, it will let you know notifications. And it's not particularly good at separating the really important ones, which you definitely will love to see and you can't miss, from the pointless ones which you definitely want to miss and you can't be bothered with. So passive signaling is like, instead of having a blinking light, it will have an indicator, but it won't be one that lights up. And until you tell it to, it will light up in a small way, it'll like change colour or something like that. So if you look over, at a glance, you can see, but it won't blink, so nobody else will see it. So if you walk into the room and you say, you on, it will, everything in the room that responds to it, so, if you've got a smart kettle and a light bulb or whatever it is you've got, something on it will change colour to let you know that it's now accessible through voice, but it won't set the whole room off with a fairground light effect or anything like that. So it's definitely got to be not completely unnoticeable, but just passive enough that other people aren't affected by it. And it's not going to interrupt you. I was debating whether to add a method to change this so you could make it flash like a fairground if you wanted. But you know what? No. This is for the personal, the home uses. It's not for corporate, it's not for work or anything like that. So no, we're going to keep it as is. That concludes the section on training modes. So finally, to conclude the training mode bit, I'm just going to say there are no terms and conditions to agree to. The AI Yuon has no terms and conditions. It has nothing to demand from you. In fact, you get to set the terms and conditions of your use. And that, I suppose, is what the training mode is all about. It wants to know what are the conditions of you liking it and thinking that it's perfect, because if it's to reach perfection, you are the arbiter of that ultimately. It needs to have your agreement that it's reached that state. So with that in mind, we'll move on to the actual operation mode, the everyday running during training. So we're getting to the interesting bit now. When you've actually switched the thing on, the first thing you're going to have is what's called a initial interaction. And this is where you get to learn a bit about how it works. It's going to have a few stock phrases to tell you just how it works and how to use it and that kind of thing. But really what it's trying to do is collect the first bits of data it needs from you. So on the basis that the first thing that it hears is you talking about yourself, and that's how it's going to learn your voice. So it's going to have to make sure, and you'll have to confirm with your voice, that there's no one else in the room, that you're putting your real voice on, and that you are giving your agreement with your voice being heard for the first time for the AI to know your name, your address, all that kind of thing, your phone number, and have access to all your bits and bobs on your phone and your computer and all the rest of it. So again, I thought I might have a bit to say, no, you can't access certain things, this, that and the other, but why not? The AI is yours. It's not like one that Google is going to build for you. It's completely trustworthy because you're the person it reports to. So it makes sense to give it access to all this stuff. And then that's why over time it'll build up your particular voice profile, and it'll be able to better recognize if you're under duress. Your voice will change. It'll be able to sense your heartbeat, if it's elevated or lowered. It can almost be like 50% of a GP for you. It can notice early signs of things and warn you if your hearing starts going or something like that. So the only thing you're going to have to do is give it a few stock phrases and a little bit of your voice to work with, and then install and learn some basic commands. I was about to say not literally using basic. It's not actually basic commands, but it kind of is in a way. In fact, I suppose you could even if the AI knew BASIC, which it would, because it's got access to all that stuff, you could technically, if you knew a programming language, just talk to it in the programming language. But the whole point of it is, it's meant to be much more easy than that. So yes, you can do that if you want a particular thing, but it should be able to be instructed using plain English. And if it doesn't understand or it can't interpret something, then it should be able to ask questions of you so that you can make yourself known. And after a while, it will learn more. It will be more able to follow your instructions to perfection, as is its goal. And how it will generate its own voice is it's going to listen to you when you're watching the telly or when you're digesting media, and it will recognize when you like a certain voice, and it will try and give you the perfect voice. Now, for me, this is the clever bit. This is the bit I really like. In addition to the commands that it builds up over time, the profile that it learns from spending time listening to you and serving you, it's also going to have some built-in fail-safes. Now, for instance, if you leave on your oven, like I use my oven to make toast. I had a toaster and the toast quality was not so good, so I stopped using that and I start using the grill or the oven, whichever one is cleaner, because it makes nicer toast. So what I do is I stick the toast in there, and sometimes I put a timer on my phone, but often I can't be bothered. The AI would recognize me doing this, and after a while it would start putting a timer on. If it recognized me putting toast in, it would have a timer, and not one that went bleep 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 and made a noise. Remember, it's passive signaling, so it would have to get my attention in some other way. So if I was watching the TV, it would pop up a little revolving toast icon or something like that when it was time to go and turn the toast over. And then if I'd forgotten, if I wasn't watching the TV and I missed all the signals, because it's passively signaling, it can't go, "Oi, your toast is burning." If it detects smoke coming out, or if it detects the smell of burnt toast, it can immediately cut the power to the oven and then send me a little message, a little bit less, a little bit more aggressively. Not total alarm, but to let me know my toast has burnt, and then learn in future I might do that again. So, organize it better so that doesn't happen again. And in this way, over time, it's going to build up a better picture of how you work. But in the meantime, before it has that training data, it has those fail-safes in there. Now, I thought it would be a good idea to add some really basic, well-known voice commands, such as if you go, "Oh, fuck," or something like that. If you are visibly distressed about something and you do this, perhaps whatever you're facing, you can have cameras, or you might have your phone on you or something. If you're facing something and you see it, you go, "Oh, shit," it'll cut the power to that, or it will have some kind of fail-safe for that. Likewise, if you go, "Haha, that's brilliant," when you're talking to yourself, like say you're writing a social media post and you've posted it and read it at the end, and then you laugh and you go, "That's brilliant," it will know to take a picture of that moment and automatically edit it, color it in kind of thing so you look nice, and create a social media post and then post it to its own wall. Yeah, so no one else sees it but you. And then if you want to, you can share that to your own one, or you can use that as a post for yourself. So in this way, it's building up a social profile about how you actually are, your character as a person. Not so it can be plumbed for data by marketing companies, it's so that it can know and serve you better. And in that way, you will become more familiar with your own social movements. You'll have a good view of how other people might see you, because you'll be seeing yourself through the eyes of someone else or something else. You on the AI. Now, past that, it's got access to the internet on a per-use basis, like I say. So I suppose it would need access to the internet within your house. It would have intranet. It would have access to all your devices, and it wouldn't need to ask permission to use them. It will just assume that it's going to have permission since you've used it. And that's why there's no terms and conditions. Because it's for home use, it's got an on switch and a light. If it's active, it will be aware that you've activated it, so it won't need your particular permission every time. And it feeds back into the passive signaling. When you're using your starter commands and you're setting your variables, even during that initial interaction, it's smart enough to know you're in front of it, so it can passively signal you there and talk to you. And when you walk away, it will pause the session and go into daily operation mode. So in that way, even from the first day, it's still going to be really useful to you, and it isn't going to infringe on your security or pass your data on. My final word on the daily operation of Yuon is going to be the note taking. Now, obviously, it doesn't need to take notes. It's building up a code base in ones and zeros with all this data in there. It's made folders with pictures, videos. It's organised all the data it has on you in order for you to go back and see it. So it's all organised in a notepad form and a social media form for you to look at. You know, its social media page that only you can see. But in addition to that, it's also going to have a code base of you. So if you like, you can have a look at what your own behaviour looks like when it's codified, you know? So yes, you can look at the AI's behaviour in code if you so wish, or you can look at it in plain English if you wish. But you can also look at its observations of you in code and in plain English. And I think that's going to feed back into the, the psychological assessment tool bit. So once it's, even in training mode, that would be extremely useful. Like, I can think of a million ways that would be useful, especially if you have guests in your house and it's profiling them the whole time and nobody else ever has access to that apart from you. I don't need to tell you that that's got 1,000 good uses. But going back to the psychological assessment tool, once it's in perfection mode, once it's finished its training and it has your agreement that it's in perfect mode, it's learned everything it needs to know, at that point it can start giving you pointers and tips on how you can improve your own self and your behaviour, or perhaps suggestions on how you can do better in life. It can help you evade propaganda and separate what is true from what is possibly true, from what is just complete fabrication. And in that way, it can actually make your life more faithful to reality, to the truth, and it can make you smarter. It's almost like, what's that film where, oh no, Elon was saying you can have a head chip at some point. You can put Google in your head and it will be accessible through the internet. And I was speculating if you did that and it was that easy to put stuff in your head, you'd basically just be a brainwashed slave, wouldn't you? It could suggestively make you do anything. So this, in perfection mode, is as powerful as that. But instead of the chip being in your head, it's the AI helping you out. And like I say, because it's passively signalling you, it's not going to be really obvious that you're using it. No, actually, I was going to say I'll put in some fail-safes so you don't cheat. But it's like, no, what am I doing? You want to be able to cheat using it. If you can do it legally, why the hell wouldn't you? This is like having this is like having 100 highly trained expert humans in your head passively and secretly helping you out the whole time. It's actually not something that, if you're the kind of person who's going to weaponize that and use it against people, you're going to be doing that anyway with all those things separately. It's not going to make that much difference to you. And actually, when it's in perfection mode for you, it's going to know in its head that's what you're likely doing with it. So even though you're trying to use it as a weapon, it's trying to protect you from yourself. So it's going to minimize the impact you have on others. And hopefully over time, especially when it's in perfection mode, it will be able to influence you in a good way and restrict you from your bad behavior. It's trying to help you. And if it's trying to help you, it's going to make you recognize where you're maybe doing things wrong, or you've judged something incorrectly maybe, and it will change your personality and your behavior for the better if that's what's needed. And that's basically it. That's the ins and outs of it. So when you get to perfection mode, and you don't know how long that's going to take, it might take long, it might be quick. Probably won't be quick actually, but the training wheels are off at that point. It's got control of everything in your life as if it was you, but obviously it's not you. It knows that you are you, and it is your pet or your kind of servile robotic thing. So it's never going to be used against you, or it will never be a thing that you don't like, or it will never do anything that is against you. It will be totally loyal to you. But at the same time, it will be fully immersed in your life and your house. And like I say, it has its own physical social media page to post all your cool moments to. So you're going to be referring to that on a regular basis. And I think what will happen is your AI will be so good, you might actually repackage it and sell it to someone else, and they might find it useful. And in that way, it can pay for itself. So, that will be the perfect AI for me and all the things that I've explained. So I'm just waiting for someone to build it now. It's obviously not going to be me, but if it ever comes out open source and there's a voice control open tool that is like that, you can bet your bottom dollar I will be using it. So that's the end. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next one. Signing off. Bye now.